This is a topic I've wanted to talk about for a long time, going hot swappable. And we're not talking about some kind of weird spouse swap scenario or anything like that, but rather computer keyboards with the ability to swap out dozens of switches on the fly without the need to solder. And don't get me wrong, I love huffing unnecessary fumes while hanging out in a freakishly cold garage while kicking it with the spiders and getting pneumonia. Okay, yeah, no, I don't prefer to solder if I don't have to. Now, having hot swappable switches is a great convenience factor, but it doesn't make a good keyboard on its own. But when you combine that with 3 modes of connectivity, Bluetooth, a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, or USB-C. The 60% keyboard we're reviewing today, the TK63, is also IPX4 waterproof. The actual word waterproof is on the website. I was just going to use weather resistant, but hey, if you're going to go all out and dive into the deep end with waterproof. Last but not least, this keyboard's only $80 with free worldwide shipping and a 1-year warranty. And by the end of the video, if you're interested in this keyboard and that $80 is just a little bit too steep, let's go ahead and level out that grade a little bit because I do have a 25% off exclusive discount code for my audience, the Stallions and Stallionettes. Without further ado, let's review the Tezarre TK63 mechanical keyboard. 60%. It's Paquito. A lot of mouse space for you. Let's get it. A quick disclaimer for my audience, the Stallions and Stallionettes, this keyboard was sent for review, but this is going to be an honest, comprehensive review. I haven't been paid or told to say anything about it, so if there's any cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement, you're going to hear about it. So these companies can make better products over time. So over the last 5 to 8 years, 60 and 65% keyboards have become wildly popular with PC gamers because instead of having to have some kind of a one-handed keyboard and then push your full-size keyboard that you use for productivity out of the way when you want to play a first-person shooter so you have more mouse space, just one keyboard has the versatility to fill all those jobs. We'll get some basic productivity done for you, typing up documents and whatnot, browsing the web, and best of all, if it does have hot swappable switches, if you ever get sick of the way your keyboard feels, you can make it feel, type, click, and game like a completely different keyboard by putting in different switches. And for newer PC gamers or those that might not want to dive into the deep end with building a custom keyboard from the ground up, a keyboard like this is a great starting point where you can still customize and tinker, swap out switches and keycaps, but yet the keyboard comes ready to run with 3 connection modes if you want to go wired, Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which by the way, I have used this keyboard to tinker around on my Valve Steamdeck recently by plugging that dongle into a cheap generic dock that I bought on Amazon. So yes, this keyboard does work wirelessly with the dongle with the Steamdeck. Now, if you don't want to customize with your own keycaps, I don't blame you. They do have some pretty nice default layouts. If you come over to this drop down that says custom TK63, these are the packages that come with an additional set of keycaps pre-installed on the keyboard itself. This is the model as tested and reviewed here today, and all of these retail for $130. However, you do have the option of popping for the stock TK63 at $80 and then seeing how you fare on Amazon with third-party keycaps. If you do have any issues with your product, there is a support drop down and they do have a warranty information page, which does explain all Tezarre products have a 1-year warranty, which is decent, especially in the price point, but I'd like to see something a little longer, she said. And that warranty period does start from when the product is delivered. Packaging and included accessories is what you would expect to an $80 to $130 keyboard, a lot of cardboard and plastic, not glass, wood, and foam, but I do like the selections you've made with your keyboard will be displayed on these markings here. 4 outer shell colors as well as what switches you selected. Flip it or open to take a look at the goods, little piece of documentation. And this is actually your quick start guide, and I actually really like how this is laid out. It shows you how to use Bluetooth, wired connection, as well as the 2.4 gigahertz dongle, how to remap your keys. If you need more information, you scan the QR codes. If you need more assistance, you can reach out to them there. And then this is what I really like over here. You have some hotkey combinations. As this is a 60% keyboard, you are missing a lot of keys. You don't have function keys, and you're missing a lot. It's a small keyboard. You're going to use by holding down a function key, then maybe an arrow key. You can scroll through RGB modes or multimedia keys. I'll hold her steady for you. If you want to pause the screen, maybe pinch and zoom so you can read, you can do that now. Too late, you lost your chance. In addition to that very useful laid out quick start guide, there's actually a dedicated instruction manual. English is the primary language, very good font, everything's very large. And I do mean large, everything's blown up. All the pictures or diagrams, it's very easy to read. Oh, English is actually the only language in here. Nice. Actually usable and tells you what to do with your new product. Great. You will have your keyboard kept in this little plastic dust cover. And up top here, you are going to have a couple of accessories. In that accessory box, you will have a keycap puller as well as a switch puller. You can actually pull off keycaps with the switch puller. However, it might actually scratch or damage some of the keycaps. So these are for actually popping off the switches, which we'll do later in this video. And these are for the keycaps. Then you have a USB-C cable. It does have an L-bend connector, which is removable. Very nice. This is very short, about a 3-footer. So you're pretty much only going to be using this for charging, but it is modular, removable, so you can BYOC, bring your own cable, maybe something a little bit longer, braided, microfiber, lightweight, flexible, and most importantly, cosmetically, you can color match your theme or setup. It does have a little Velcro tie back. It is one of the ones that stays connected and doesn't pop off and hit you in the eye. I do like that. It is branded on the USB-A side with Tezarre, and it is an interesting shape as well, kind of a slash, like an old guitar. Remove my previous statement. This little L-bend, this 90 degree is not removable. This is what you're gonna get. What else you're gonna get is the actual keyboard. If you don't have a keyboard in the box, there's an issue. Your delivery driver might have got you on that one. Sweet. Pretty good weight to this keyboard, especially for being small. 60%er actually feels quite hefty, well built. On the bottom, you will have your 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which does have its own little dedicated cutout. You do have a couple of rubberized feet. Not a couple, you have 4 of them. You do have an on and off switch. And then this is actually a very nice feature. A lot of smaller keyboards actually miss out on these flippable feet here. And I personally do like to have my keyboard cocked up at a little bit of an angle. You already know there's going to be a ton of sound checks in this video. Typing test, swapping switches test. Cut all the music, all of it, all the background music. Go tell my neighbors down the street to quit beating each other. Now, a couple of very unique quirks and features of this keyboard. I have it plugged in as it was dead on arrival. Not damaged. The battery was completely depleted right out of the box. A couple of interesting notes. This is actually the only 60%er that I have seen that has arrow keys, but that forces this keyboard to use a unique layout where in order to use the default keys, you have to hold down function in combination with these buttons. And if you do have these custom keycaps, then you're not going to have that readout or visual display of what that secondary mode is when you hold down function. But luckily, if you did get one of these custom variants, it does also come with the stock keycap, so you can just look at the black stalkers and be like, yep, now that's what the function button does. Next up, we already know this keyboard has Bluetooth. However, it can simultaneously pair up to 3 Bluetooth devices, and then you basically scroll through those 3 devices, so you don't have to unpair, repair to the next device. You can be synced up and swap between 3 Bluetooth devices. That's pretty cool. In addition to that, there will be a little blue status light that flashes to let you know Bluetooth is ready to do its business when you're ready for it. And the last one, because this is a very commonly overlooked feature or aspect, this is of course Hotswappable. How only it invented a new word. We've already done delay plus lag for controllers, delag. Then mechanical and clicky buttons or McClickies. And if you're going to rebind the rear buttons of a controller, it's rear bind. Of course, Hotswappable. How only it is Hotswappable optical switches, not mechanical switches. Very confusing. This is a mechanical keyboard. However, the switches are not mechanical. They're optical, meaning there is a beam of light that is broken. And when the connection of that light beam is broken, that's when it activates the switch. Now, because of that, the way the sockets or plugs, whatever you want to call them, for the Hotswappable switches, they're socketed for optical switches. They're set up for optical switches, meaning that when you're shopping for switches, you have to stay in that optical family, specifically Gateron optical switches, which they have a good chunk, but you are limited in the customization of this keyboard because of that. You have to stay in the optical family as opposed to mechanical switches, which are far more popular and have a lot more options. I may do a pros and cons comparison video between optical and mechanical switches, but just real quick, as a general rule of thumb, optical switches, since there is no physical connection, it's just a beam of light, they're generally rated rated for millions more clicks, which is already a lot because mechanical switches are rated for millions of clicks as is, and they're quieter, virtually silent because there's no moving parts, no physical connection, I should say. And finally, they can be scientifically faster to actuate because as soon as that beam of light is broken, pew, that millisecond, it activates the switch. But optical switches still don't really have the popularity or momentum as mechanical switches, not only because there is less of a smorgasbord of options, but you don't get that nice tactile click that a lot of gamers desire, because even if you have a headset on or you're blaring your PC speakers, you still get that nice tactile click from the mechanical switches and that nice springy rebound to its neutral position. It's very satisfying. You don't really get that satisfying primal guttural feeling that you get with a mechanical keyboard where you're just connected with your gear, in my opinion. So just make sure you know that when you are purchasing this keyboard. If you want the mechanical switches, mechanical, then go for the TK63 Pro. But the TK63 standard, not Pro version, is going to be these Hotswappable optical switches. But if that's what you're looking for, these feel great. I am giving them a 5 out of 5. They're Hotswappable, they're IPX4 waterproof, and they feel great. Nice rubberized pad under the space bar. There is no stabilizer bar, which is interesting. Also surprising because it does feel very stable even without a bar. And it's actually because you have these two support posts on each side taking place of some kind of a bar. Same thing with the other long keys such as shift, backspace, and enter. So how do you swap or remove the Hotswappable switches? Very good question. Thank you for asking. So it does slightly vary depending on the switch type, but with these Gateron optical switches, it is actually quite easy. With your included switch puller, you are going to clamp onto this little black prong or peg that is on each side, and that is going to allow the switch to be pulled out. Now you are going to need to give it a firm tug, and as you can see, it's already starting to lift up. Just give it a tug. You get a lot more stability laying the keyboard on the desk. I was just trying to hover in midair to show you what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and remove spacebar, will we? Shall we? Same exact process. That one just lifts right out. And there's our Gateron optical browns. Very linear. Very nice. Virtually silent. Now, it doesn't appear as if there's any kind of factory lube, that being grease or oil of any kind, but that's actually a good thing to my understanding with optical switches, specifically Gateron optical switches. You need to be very careful if lubing them at all. They don't really need to be lubed. Pop them in there and start clicking them, apparently. Again, only with optical switches. Mechanical, you definitely want some lube on there. There's springs and clicky bits. To get the software on their website, come over here to support, and this drop down, go over here to downloads. TK63 is the model that we're dealing with today, which is the optical switches. The TK63 Pro is going to be their mechanical switch version that is also Hotswappable and will be reviewed on the channel in the near future. And then you click on software, it will download a zip file, just stuffed over here in my downloads. Go ahead and unzip or extract the one item, which is going to be a .exe file, and run the installation. If it is recognized as a virus, as it was for my Windows Defender, go ahead and pass her for entry. She's clear. The application by default will be in Chinese characters. You will be very confused, but don't be. We're going to switch it right now. Come over here to the heart, and then in this drop down, you're going to see English. Give her a second to reset, and this is going to be a usable application for you in just a second here. I say usable. It's not fantastic, but it is usable. It does do some stuff for you. But you don't need to install this on your PC because if you don't give a damn about macros, like I personally don't, then you can control the lighting, including turning it off completely, directly from the keyboard on the fly. You have full control of each key by clicking on them. You can set up macros, media controls, etc. You got some lighting controls over here, you got some macros down here, and you got some support over here, including 2 update boxes I recommend clicking. You can't full screen the app, you can't pinch the corners and make it any bigger or smaller. It's not necessary to use the keyboard. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, and I personally won't be using it again. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. As for build quality, this keyboard feels quite sturdy on my desk. I will be overlaying some B-roll from a far better YouTuber than myself, who actually did a teardown or disassembly of this keyboard to get in the guts, and did notice that there are 2 patches of foam, 2 layers, if you will, sandwiching the plate. There is no pins on the PCB as it is socketed for optical switches, but for an $80 keyboard, or $130 if you pop for these custom keycaps, which I really recommend you don't. 4 out of 5. Now, while the keycaps are double shot put in PBTs, meaning they should be quite durable in the long run, but I was not a fan whatsoever of the surface material making contact with my fingertips. It did not feel good whatsoever. It felt extra cheap, rough, porous, and I also didn't like the translucent sections where the RGB bleeds through, specifically on the teal custom caps. So I personally would advise just popping for the $80 standard version, considering all you're getting is an extra set of colored keycaps that you could just go on Amazon, get some universals for cheaper that will feel better, and the RGB will look better. Yeah, that's just my personal pro tip, or bro tip, if you will. But I put on the stock set of keycaps and actually liked those quite a bit. They were serviceable. They felt good. I'm going to give them a 3 out of 5. So as for the cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement of the TK63, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of the naming convention. It can be a little bit confusing calling the optical version the 63 and then the mechanical version the 63 Pro. I think they should blatantly be labeled or called the TK63 optical and the TK63 mechanical. I really genuinely do, because that is a make or break feature. When somebody's shopping for a keyboard, that's the main, just like when you're shopping for a camera. What kind of glass can it use? What lenses is it compatible with? What kind of switches can this keyboard use? That is a huge factor. I don't have an issue with optical switches. I do prefer mechanical, tactile, clicky switches. I do enjoy optical switch keyboards as well, so I'm glad that I got the optical version here. But for a lot of gamers, that might just throw a little confusion in the mix when they go to swap in some mechanical switches and they're like, the hot swapping didn't work because these are socketed for optical switches. It's just a light beam that needs to be broken by a plastic bar. Having said that, the pros and my verdict are all looped into one big jumble here. For $80, and I do advise going for the $80 standard version with the black keycaps, just go onto Amazon, get some universals. They'll feel better and fare better in the long run. This keyboard has some serious factors going for it. It has 3 modes of connectivity: Bluetooth, that 2.4 gigahertz dongle, and wired. I do recommend, if you want to game wirelessly, that you use that dongle. You will have a much more consistent and faster connection than Bluetooth, but your battery life will suffer slightly. It's IPX4 waterproof, so if you're always spilling stuff on your desk, or God knows whatever you're putting on your keyboard, getting on your keyboard, this will resist a lot of that. That's great. The RGB looks cool, can be customized or even turned off if you don't like it. It's Hotswappable, which is awesome and pretty rare in this price point, and best of all, the build quality is very solid. If you're looking for a 60% wireless Hotswappable optical switch keyboard, this is by far my recommendation. And if you're looking for a mechanical Hotswappable keyboard, T63 Pro, which I will be reviewing on the channel in the near future as well. This keyboard is linked in the description below alongside an exclusive discount for my audience, and I'll see you Stallions and Stallionettes tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of Gamer Heaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv, where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding. Starting June, I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow, because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.